Greetings, kindred spirits, and welcome to all the new subscribers to this channel. And I would like to thank you all for your support, feedback and interest in 13 Star Sign Astrology. So we have a new moon in Aries in the true lifetime sky. The new moon will begin on the 4th of May at 23:45 in the GMT time zone, at 18:45 in the EDT time zone, and on the 5th of May at 8:45 in the AEDT time zone. And I think we have a little bit of breathing space this new moon. The aspects are cordial and opportunistic if we use this time in the right way. The energies are not intense, but with the new moon taking place in Aries, it is likely that many of us will feel restless and ready to face any obstacles that are on our path. And as long as we are doing this from a place of self-responsibility and consideration, then we are on the right path. Although I'm not saying to overlook any bad behaviour of another with acceptance, but to act with integrity when moving away from circumstances that are a hindrance to our own growth, whether mentally, spiritually, materially or physically. There is a deep urge with this placement of the moon, for some, to rebel against restriction or obligations. There may be an underlying urge to break free and rid ourselves of people or circumstances that aggravate us. We have 2 T-squares this new moon, as well as the ongoing grand cross with the nodes, Pluto, Saturn and Pallas, with Mercury and Venus as the guest speakers. So even though the new moon itself is offering us ease and opportunities to take a breather, these grand aspects are reminding us that there is still work that needs to be done. Especially if we are in partnerships or relationships where we are restricted by limitation, although the planets do suggest that the sense of limitation is basically down to our own belief structures and what we feel we deserve. So the 2 T-squares in effect this new moon, apart from the ongoing grand cross, are likely to make some of us feel a strong need to escape. The first T-square, formed by Pallas in opposition to Chiron, blinds us to the bigger picture when it comes to self-belief and what we could actually achieve in reality. And because they are both in square to Juno, the goddess of marriage and commitment, old wounds could surface around deception and boundaries within relationships. Or there could be realizations that occur regarding our relationships and these issues. This particular grand aspect, in its negative sense, keeps us stuck in karmic patterns and volatile situations that are not good for our soul's growth. For some, it could be that there are obligations or responsibilities that keep them stuck in these situations, maybe to do with children or shared resources. And when I say shared resources, I mean like a business or a mortgage. However, the ongoing grand cross with the nodes, etc., is the strongest and most significant aspect because of its longevity, yes, as well as its players, since they are all very strong and powerful characters. So this particular T-square with Chiron, Pallas and Juno is basically waking us up to our self-worth, our obligations and ability to shift our perspective, rather than to allow ourselves to become irritable or being too stuck in our head negatively. The second T-square is with Jupiter retrograde in opposition to Mars, and both are in square to Neptune. Both Mars and Jupiter are very independent and demanding planets. Jupiter is retrograding through Ophiuchus at present, breaking down old belief structures around injustices, belief systems and financial structures. whilst Mars in Taurus is on a mission to fulfill his desires and will dig his heels in if he is opposed with a stubbornness that goes beyond common sense. As both are in square to Neptune, these two planets can go over the top to prove a point, acting recklessly and carelessly, especially when it comes to money, possessions, drugs or alcohol. Drowning our sorrows or acting impulsively or rebelliously is definitely not the way to go this new moon. The ongoing Grand Cross that has been shape-shifting from a T-square to a Grand Cross since last June is actually in effect to help us transform and transcend old traditional beliefs, values and structures that are no longer serving us, both personally and collectively. And please do listen to my previous podcast if you would like to know more about this grand aspect, because I've been discussing this since the Lionsgate portal last August. So we would all fare better if we embrace the changes that are taking place rather than to go into resistance, because the more we resist is the more that we make our lives and situations harder for ourselves. And it's not an easy process, because the changes taking place on the grand scale of things is not just uncomfortable, it is highly unnerving for those who don't understand its significance or just have no idea of the energies coming in and what needs to be done. And that applies to a hell of a lot of people. And if I'm being honest, also myself. So it may take something really big to happen to wake those up who are in the dark with regards to esoteric knowledge. For me personally, I come to the realization that the universe really wants me to move house. And it's only this week, well last night actually, that I came to terms with it and have finally given in to the resistance that I have been in for several years now. And how I have come to this realization is because every time I try to get organised here, obstacles are continuously getting in my way. You know, basically if it's not one thing, then it's another. So last night, and I'm actually recording this on the 2nd of May, I was up most of the night getting my head around why is it that every time I tackle an obstacle here, another one or even 2 or 3 come in to replace it. And as time goes on, the obstacles are becoming more numerous. And the reasons why I have been in resistance is because firstly, my daughter goes to college locally. And secondly, and you're going to laugh now, is because I'm worried about leaving the birds behind who are feeding my garden. You know, but thirdly, because I have never lived anywhere in my life for more than 6 years before I moved here. And I have actually lived here for nearly 15 years now. And that is the longest I have lived anywhere in my whole life. You know, 6 years previous to that was the longest. You know, and I also came to the realisation that my negative attitude towards moving has been a major block. So now I know what I need to work on. You know, letting go of the attachments. And I say that in plural because there are probably many underlying causes for the attachments that I have made to this particular house. You know, I have been aware for quite some time that my soul has outgrown this place. And I wasn't recognising the signs from the universe. And I realised that the time hasn't just turned up recently, it's actually way overdue. And I know that my story doesn't just apply to me, because there is a collective shift that is happening, especially in this build-up to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that will take place in January 2020, which is already uprooting many of us, but in different ways, of course, you know. For some, it could be moving home. For others, it could be changing job or career. Or even for some, it could be breaking with friends or family ties. And this is occurring to push us forward to where we need to be, who we need to meet, but most importantly, to allow the shift to occur in terms of energy. Because environmental energy can become really stagnant if we have outgrown it. It's like trying to breathe in oxygen from an empty oxygen tank. As well as preventing us from furthering our soul's growth on our journey through life. I was going to discuss the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and the retrograde planets, Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto in this podcast, but I've decided to do this as a separate one because they are in effect throughout this year, or for a longer period than just this new moon. Although the shape-shifting ground cross I have been discussing does include Saturn and Pluto. So I will post up that podcast either tonight or tomorrow. So for this new moon, I recommend deep breathing techniques and grounding that energy by walking barefoot, especially outside if you have some green space. But even standing on concrete outside will be beneficial. I always see walking barefoot on the grass as earthing and on concrete as grounding. I segregated the two into those respects. Although paving stones would work more efficiently. I suggest also that we burn a pink candle for calming and an earthy incense such as cedarwood or sandalwood for grounding and clearing. And the meditation I am recommending for this new moon is Diamond White Violet Fire Transmission by Steve Nobel, and that's about clearing old karmic patterns and programs, and I will post the link to that transmission in the description box below. So, dear kindred spirits, I shall be posting up the horoscopes in the next few days. I will post up the Saturn-Pluto conjunction and the retrograde planets a little bit after this podcast. And once again, I wish you all peace and much love.